Welcome back to Guns 101. It's brought to you by the Self Defense Radio Network. With me, I have Amanda Suffolcool of Eye on the Target Radio, Charlie Cook of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Our guest is Claude Werner. He was the chief instructor at the Rogers Shooting School. He's still an NRA instructor. We wonder about what planet? No, this planet, this Earth. He's going to talk about locking the slide. You can find him at the Tactical Professor or tacticalprofessor.com. Claude, talk to me. We've seen lots of new students struggle to get a pistol open.
Yeah, in the community, we think this is a very simple task, but to people who when they buy their first auto-loading pistol, it is a vexing task. And personally, I think it's one of the reasons we have more unintentional discharges than we'd like, because if a person can't lock the slide of their pistol open, it doesn't allow them to double check if the chamber is indeed empty. You know, they might be able to pull it to the rear and visually check it, but if it's not locked open, they have no way of physically checking it with a fingertip or a pipe cleaner or something like that to make sure there's nothing in it. So I think this is a lot more important, despite the fact it's a very fundamental task, than we realize. And I have seen many owners struggle with it. And so I'd like to provide a short tutorial about the best way to do it that I've found, and also to talk about the fact that there are some pistols that have design flaws in this regard. So
you have the secret handshake. Let's see it.
Okay. Could we have the first slide?
It is up.
So the first thing we ought to do is notice the fact that there is in fact a part on the side of the gun. It's almost always on the left side. Some of them actually have one on the right side as well, a supplementary one. Now, there'll be a few that don't have a lock at all. And that's what I'll mention as a design flaw. So a new owner should be aware of where it is and what it is. Now, the design flaw that some guns have is this is a very small part. And the design flaw that other guns have is it doesn't exist. They use a slightly different mechanism, and that can be overcome, but they need to be aware of that there's a way to do it. So just know that that part is there, and on the slide I have that annotated. It's called by different names by different manufacturers: slide release, slide stop, slide lock. The terminology is not particularly important as long as the person knows where it is and what it is. So then what we're going to do is we're going to grip the pistol, and notice the fact that on the slide you cannot see my trigger finger in the trigger guard of the pistol. That's by design. We need to be aware of the fact that anytime we're doing an administrative handling of the gun like this, we need to have the finger outside the trigger guard. So first of all, you're going to grip the pistol in a position in as close to a firing grip as you can with the trigger finger outside of the trigger guard. Okay, second slide, please.
And second slide is up.
So then what we'll do is we're going to take, for a right-hander, we're going to take the thumb of the right hand and we're going to push upward on that slide stop. Now, in the case of some guns, like for instance Glocks, they will have a very small slide stop, unlike the HK that I've used for the slides on this. And what a gun owner might need to do is to actually shift their hand around on the gun toward the left side so that they can actually get some purchase on that with their right thumb. While you're doing that, the person needs to be aware of the fact that if that happens, there's a natural tendency to turn the gun toward their left side. That is an issue as a technique. What we need to do is rotate the body around the gun so that the muzzle remains downrange. This is for those of us who shoot at indoor ranges, we've seen this all the time, where a person tries to lock the slide open and they rotate the gun 90 degrees so it's pointing at the booth next to them. That's a problem. So, and this is another thing that sometimes in the community we take for granted. For those of us who are ex-military or former law enforcement, or oddly enough, people who are dancers, we're used to rotating our body 90 degrees in a single spot. Most people are not. It's a weird little action, and people just aren't used to that if they don't have one of those three backgrounds. So person needs to be aware of the fact that what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to turn their body 90 degrees if they need to adjust their grip on one of these guns where it has a small slide stop. So then the object of the exercise is to get the thumb onto the slide stop and press upwards on it. Once they're pressing upwards on it, then we're going to go to the next step. So could I have the next slide, please?
It is up.
Then what we're going to do is we're going to grasp the rear of the slide. I am not in favor, although I realize it's common in the community now, but I am not in favor of grasping the front of the slide. It's just too easy for a beginner to get some part of their hand in front of the muzzle, which is setting ourselves up for the other negative outcome of shooting yourself with your own gun. So there are two ways of grasping the rear of the slide. Personally, I like the pinch method that I've shown in the slide that you're looking at. Other people use an overhand grasp, and that's okay too, assuming that you can grasp the slide adequately. With small guns, that's not always possible. They may actually require you to use this pinch grip that I'm showing in the picture, because there's just not enough room to use an overhand method. So once you grasp the rear of the slide, you are maintaining pressure upward on the slide stop. So could we go to the next slide then, please?
Yes, sir. It's up.
And so our final part of this action is we're going to pull vigorously to the rear with the left hand, as shown in this picture, and at the same time, we're pushing forward with the right hand while maintaining pressure upward on the slide stop. So at this point, we actually have three separate actions going on, which is why this is so vexing for people who are new to guns, because in some cases, they've had to learn four things in this. They've had to learn to rotate their body 90 degrees on the same spot. They have to hold the slide stop upward with the thumb. They have to push forward with the right hand and pull rearward with the left hand. This isn't that easy.
It's not. Sorry to interrupt. I like the pinch method that you're showing here, because I've had a couple students. I usually teach the overhand method, and I've had a couple students pinch their hands in the ejection port when the slide goes forward. So this is a really good method to pull the slide back.
And a disclaimer, I'm not associated with H&K in any way, but I will say that the wings that H&K put on the rear of the slide of the VP9 pistol that's shown in that image is really an advancement in a way of a very simple thing, to put a little thing that you can hold on to with your thumb and forefinger. That was a really smart move on their part, and I really like that aspect of the pistol. And in the future, I'd really like to see more manufacturers do that, because I've noticed how much easier, especially for ladies, it is for them to manipulate that slide using the pinch method. So once they pull the slide to the rear, as long as you're maintaining the pressure on the slide stop upward and you get the slide all the way to the rear, it's going to lock to the rear. And that's what we want, is to be able to have the slide lock open, be able to visually inspect the chamber to make sure there's nothing in it, and then to be able to physically inspect it, which could be any number of ways of doing that. Sticking the tip of your little finger in it, using a pencil or something like that, and pushing it in through the ejection port. Or personally, I like to use a pipe cleaner. That's a good tool. So for some pistols, they simply don't work that way. There is no slide stop. For instance, the Walther PPK and PP series, they don't have an external mechanism. So in the case of that, or for people who have limited hand strength, another method is to have another magazine which has nothing in it, no ammunition, and you put those two together at the beginning of the process if the person has to do this. Take the magazine that has ammunition out, insert the magazine that has no ammunition in, and then pull the rear of the slide, pull the slide to the rear with the left hand, pushing forward with the right hand, and the magazine will lock it open.
Right.
There's one exception to that, Ruger LCP. One of the most popular pistols in America. There's no way to do it other than manually pushing upward on the slide stop, because the pistol does not lock open on the last round. It's designed that way. So for that one, they just have to learn to do the technique.
So knowing
Sorry,
the difference
go ahead.
between, that's okay. We're out of time. So knowing the difference between an LCP and an LCP2, because Ruger figured that out and then changed the model. But folks, check out this video. This is a great video to tell you how to lock the slide open. Great step-by-step. So check out tacticalprofessor.com, Professor Claude Werner, and more videos right here. And Self Defense Radio Network, sdrn.us. We'll be back with more.